How many people do you think are migrants? If you watch the news, you might think it's a large share.
Refugee crisis.
New EU migrants.
Question des migrants.
Dotyczące imigrantów.
In fact, migrants make up only around 3.5% of the world's population. Of these, 10% are refugees. The vast majority are economic migrants. If more people migrated, the world would be a lot richer.
The best estimate says that if people were allowed to work where they wanted, the world's GDP would be roughly double.
But many people in rich countries don't want to let more people in. And the debate veers between fear-mongering.
We have people coming into the country, you wouldn't believe how bad these people are. These are animals.
And moralising.
We have a president who is a racist, xenophobe, a religious bigot.
So what should governments do to get migration right?
When the ball comes, you hit the flag, okay?
These people are migrants living in Australia.
Next year I will have my citizenship. I'm sitting my exam next month.
Almost a third of people in Australia were born somewhere else. It has the highest migrant share of population of all the big OECD countries, and almost double that of America. Migration has hugely benefited Australia.
Australia's population has doubled since the 1970s and the economy has grown 22-fold. And it's also become a more exciting and interesting country.
Australia has not had a recession for 28 years, thanks partly to its openness to foreign talent.
You can go to neighbourhoods of Sydney where you hear a variety of different languages spoken and you get ideas from everywhere, and it makes it easier for them to have trading connections with the rest of the world.
Anna has been a Sydney-sider for almost 2 years.
I know the definition is that I moved here as a migrant, but I wouldn't call myself a migrant. Being non-white, I think people like me get the impression that that word's used in a very negative way. I want to call myself a global person because I believe I can live and work anywhere in the world.
She moved here with her family from India.
We were looking at an option out of India. We'd lived in India all our lives. I'd been here on holiday in 2008 and I loved the country, and that was at that point that I started thinking about it. I was very excited.
Until the 1970s, Australia had immigration rules that strongly favoured Europeans. People called it the White Australia policy. But since then, the system has been colourblind, and the number of migrants coming from China and India has rapidly increased.
Did you put any on your face? No. Yeah, put it on your face.
In the 12 months leading up to June 2018, Australia gave out just over 160,000 permanent work visas. Anna received one of them. Australia gives out far more visas relative to its population than Britain or America. It shows that a country can be very open to immigration and very successful, but it has to be done the right way.
You wouldn't want to have such a big influx so suddenly that you ended up undermining the institutions that make rich countries rich in the first place. But what we do know is that you can manage a much higher level of migration than is normal at the moment. And how do we know that? Because it's happened. You look at somewhere like Australia, any rich country could manage that level of migration. And then if that works, open the gates a bit more. You could design a policy that was better both for the native born and for the rest of the world.
Australia has found a formula that works. Anna came on a skilled, independent visa, which allows her and her family to live in Australia permanently and without needing a job in advance.
The advantage is they value your previous work experience in Australia, which is a good thing because they're not just looking for entry-level professions.
Anna's application was accepted because she scored highly on Australia's points-based system. Here's how it works. People who want to move to Australia can put forward an expression of interest. They are then awarded points based on their qualifications, their age, how well they speak English, and what skills and work experience they have. Those with the highest number of points are invited to apply to the Australian government. Madeline Sumption is a migration policy expert.
A points-based system is used in Australia, Canada, New Zealand and a handful of other countries, generally in order to increase immigration. The points-based system puts the government in the driving seat. They decide what characteristics they think are important.
The Australian government decides which industries it thinks most need migrants. It doesn't always get it right. Some migrants get visas, but can't find a job.
I think getting your first job in Australia is a big challenge, and I think it depends on where you come from.
As an experienced project manager, Anna got a job quickly. Most migrants in Australia find work within 18 months. But critics say the government should give more say to employers when deciding whom to let into the country. In most other rich countries, the rules are very different. If you come from a poor country, it's extremely hard to migrate legally to a rich one, unless you already have a well-paid job offer, or are a close relative of a citizen. The rules in America are particularly baffling.
America's current system is more restrictive than Australia and less selective. A large majority of the people who get permanent residence there do so via family reunification, so because they have a relative there. Only a smaller portion get in because they have skills.
They have a system that was designed quite a long time ago, and politically it has been very difficult for them to change anything. And so they have a number of quite rigid caps, which means that they've generated big backlogs. The demand for visas is so high, they're simply allocating visas by lottery.
Another issue in the United States is that it borders Latin America, so a lot of immigrants can enter illegally simply by dodging the border guards. Clearly not a problem shared by Australia.
It's an island, so you can't just walk in. Anyone who comes without permission will be spotted by the Coast Guard. They control their borders very closely. The fact that they're ruthlessly selective makes it easier for them to be generous, because Australians really do feel that they are in control of who comes.
Australia's migration success story has made public opinion generally positive towards immigrants.
Everyone at school was very welcoming. My workplace was amazing. The everyday Australian has been really nice and warm, so it's been a great experience.
But even here, there's still a sizable number of people who want to slow the pace of migration.
I think the attitude to migration is not just Australian, it's everywhere in the world now. It's usually apprehension from a very personal point of view, that people think there's possibly a loss of their own lifestyle.
In a democracy, no migration policy can succeed unless it wins and retains the consent of voters. Some natives strongly object to newcomers. They argue that immigrants drag down wages for the locals and take more out of the welfare state than they put in. Both charges are usually false, but governments could adopt policies that make it absolutely clear that migrants pay their way.
If you said to migrants coming to rich countries, yes, you can come, but you're going to have to pay a little bit of extra tax to do that, they would be extremely willing, and then suddenly that might change the picture of how people see it. People would see it as more of an opportunity and less of a hassle.
A migrant tax could be spent on things that voters like, such as pensions or public health, or the government could simply send the money to voters. They could also restrict migrants' access to the welfare state. This could be for a set number of years, as in Britain, or permanently, like in the Gulf countries. That would answer the economic complaints about migration. But what of the cultural ones? Some voters fear the disruption that rapid migration can cause.
Refugees do not assimilate.
It's destroyed the spirit of community.
Where's the work for them? Where are they going to stay?
Migrants tend to cluster, which means that some neighbourhoods really do change uncomfortably fast. Governments can encourage immigrants to learn the local language and understand the culture, but many natives prefer their societies the way they are. Overcoming all these objections will be hard, But Australia shows that a country can be twice as open to immigration as America, and the result is not a disaster, as nativists predict, but decades of peace and rising prosperity. Governments need to show voters two things: that they get to choose who comes, and that migrants put more in than they take out. When they see this, voters might be happy to open the door wider.
If you want to learn more about migration, you can click the link opposite to find further Economist coverage, some research, data, and studies used to make this film. If you want to watch more films like this, don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching.